Welcome everybody to our April Zoom meeting of the Healing Cooperative. Excited to have Heidi Dorsey as our speaker of the month. And Heidi is going to be talking to us today about animal communication. Heidi, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you guys for being here. I'm Heidi Dorsey, and I am a holistic health practitioner, intuitive, and I do lots of different types of healing modalities. And one of the things that I'm very, very passionate about is animals. And I grew up with tons of animals. From the time I was born, I've never not had animals in my life. So I have a really deep connection with them, and through my life and through different experiences with the animals, I've gotten to know them and know how they communicate. And so one of the things I like to do is to teach people how to communicate with animals. And one of the things that as Kelly said, I've done, I like to help with the rescue animals. I have special needs animals, and I prefer to take those in myself. Because I am able to listen to them and to listen to what their needs are. I find that I actually, people always joke and they say nothing dies when it comes to your house. So I am able to really help them heal at a deep level, and in the same token, they have helped me heal a lot, and that's how this works. So first, what I would like to do is I would like to share with you guys how animals communicate, the different ways that they communicate. And I wrote some notes so that I would not forget anything, because it is a lot of information. So I'm just going to touch on things, and then, you know, later down the road, if there's more information that you guys want to know and there's a space, then I'll speak again and we can continue. But first, I just want to share the different ways that animals communicate so that you guys can understand. They have so many ways of communicating. And just to be clear, communication is basically sending information from one being to another. And animals are master intuitive communicators. They don't have words, vocabulary, so they understand energy and pictures. They understand vibrations, sound. So the first way that they communicate, and most of you know this, is through their body language. They have certain movements of their body. They have facial expressions. It's basically their sign language is basically what it is. They'll move their ears, they'll position their tail. I don't know if you guys know this about dogs, but you can gauge a dog by the position of his tail, whether it's up, in the middle, or down. That tells a lot about dogs. And their chest position, when they push their chest out, or if they, strut, they're doing this kind of strut thing. Birds do that to show off a little bit, and they're kind of funny with their birds. Are really the feather animals, the flyers. They have a lot of interesting ways of communicating. The feather dance, they like to show off a lot. So body language, movement, sign language, that's the number one way that animals communicate. The second way is through smells of their urine and their poop, basically. That is scent markers. It's how they identify territory. They actually can also identify different species. So if an animal, we can go and track scat and look at it and say, oh, okay, that's bear poop or that's dog poop or whatever it is. Animals actually have the ability to do that also. They can actually identify family members. They know if one of their animals in their pack is sick through their poop and through the smell of their urine. So that's another way that they communicate, is through their droppings. They mark their territory. We all know that dogs will pee and poop, and especially male dogs, they will mark their territory with pee and poop. And a lot of times, because they can identify the different species, they know that if it's a predator or not. So basically, I'll just give an example. I have 4 foxholes here on the property right now, and my dogs, we walk through the woods every day, and one of my dogs likes to stick her head down into one of the foxholes, and I know she has kits in there. And my dog likes to poop right next to her foxhole. So she does it every day. But the fox has not moved on, because she knows, she can identify that that's a dog, and that it's not a predator, and that she's okay to stay there. If it were, like a coyote or something pooping there, that fox would most likely take her kits and move. So that's another way. Another way that they communicate is through chemical. They release pheromones. They can either be warning scents, or like a skunk will, release the chemical, the pheromone. And they don't actually, believe it or not, skunks, they do not like to be confrontational. So that's part of why they release the scent that they release. And just so you know, they are extremely precise with that the scent shooting. They're extremely precise. They aim for the dog's nose or the critter's nose, whichever critter is they're going to send out their warning scent to. The skunk is extremely precise in aiming for the nose, and the reason why they do that, and more times than not, they're going to get the nose. The chemicals released in the skunk scent actually go through the respiratory tract, through the sinuses, and they create a bacterial infection in the lungs, which can actually kill the animal. And skunks know this, so they are extremely precise, and they aim for that nose. So it's really important when you have your dog, or if your dog gets sprayed, to rinse the sinuses and to treat the lungs for a bacterial infection, and to do that pretty quickly. So they also have the ability through their scents to mimic other animals' scents. There's some animals that can mimic other animals' scents to attract those animals that they're going to prey on. So they have the ability to do that also. The next way, the fourth way that they communicate is through color. It's chromatophores, basically, is what it is, and it gives them the ability to change colors. So the chameleon, we know changes colors, but they do that so that they can either camouflage themselves, blend in if they know that predators are around. They also do it as a way to attract a mate. And also they're super intelligent in that they are able to change colors to warn the rest of the species, and especially the reptiles. They're really intelligent in that way of if they have a group, they know that they can change their colors to warn the rest of them, hey, something's coming. So they have the ability to do that and communicate in that way. And then lastly, they communicate through sound. So there's sound and vibration. And we know that dogs bark, cats meow, birds squawk or quack, or roosters roost, make the rooster sound. But the different ways that they do that is through infrasound, which is a low vibration sound. So that's sound that's below 20 hertz. So they actually communicate through these sounds and vibrations that human beings cannot hear. Another way is through ultrasound, which is the 20 hertz of, which is above 20 hertz. And that is actually kind of interesting because there's a specific animal, and I cannot remember the name of it. I know that it's in the Amazon jungle, and I think it's a femur. Anyway, bats communicate using ultrasound, and that's how they're able to find locations. But basically, they are able to use the infrasound and the ultrasound to where we cannot hear that, but they can hear that internally through themselves. They also use different calls to where they can indicate that if a different species of animal is in the area. And here's another example. So the crows, I have a very deep connection with crows. Well, flyer medicine, owl is my power totem. It's been with me for life, but crows also. So the other day, yesterday, I was in the house and the crows were going nuts. And understanding their language, they have a scout, which the scout stays separate. And when the scout alerts the rest of them, it is a very distinct call. It is a very distinct language that they use. So the crows were using this call. The scout is calling to the rest of the group and warning them. And you can hear the difference between the warning and, hey, she just put food out for us. So I hear the warning, the scout is warning the rest of the group, and I go out and the fox is in my front yard and it was actually eating the fruit from the compost that I put out. So the crows were not happy about the fox at the buffet. And the scout was warning the rest of them, hey, there's a fox here messing with our buffet. So they speak through, calls that we can hear. And then they also speak the underground animals, groundhogs and things like that. They speak through the seismic communication, which is they will actually beat or pound on the dirt. Now, it's interesting because they know that if they just pound on the dirt with their feet, that sound isn't going to go very far. So what they do is they actually take their heads and they head bang. They beat on the top of wherever they're burrowing. So that sound, the vibration from that will travel to the rest of the group, and they'll know, hey, we have a predator, or we have dinner, or whatever it is that they're trying to, the message that they're trying to get through. And then the last way with sound is the patterns of codas. And that's for the mammals, the whales and most mammals. They speak through what we know is, they're called patterns of coda, and it's like Morse code. It's the clicking and the beeping and the high frequency tones that are sent through the water. and that all the rest of the mammals pick up on, and they understand this. So animals have all of these different ways of communicating that we don't even think about. We just, we understand some of them, and we recognize a dog's bark. But there's several tones to listen for in your animal's communication with their bark. There's several different barks. There's tones to all of that, just like there is 5 different cries that a baby has. So identifying those is really helpful if you pay attention to your animals. So I said that I would share the ways that animals communicate, the purpose for us listening to them, and then different ways that we can begin to communicate with our animals. So the purpose for us listening to them is so that we can have a better, deeper relationship with them, to also understand their health concerns, their concerns about their living arrangements, or if they're trying to alert us to anything that we need to know as far as our health is concerned, because animals do have the ability to tap into us. They read us every single second, even before we have a thought process. The animal has already tuned into us to know what we're thinking. So one of the things that is important for people to really kind of open your mind to, because we were taught so long ago, like 3,000 years ago, I believe, or I don't know, 300,000 years ago, we were taught that we're separate from animals, and we're not. We are not separate from animals. And there is a guy named Pascal Peak, and he said that man is the only one that thinks man is not the only one that thinks. He's just the only one that thinks he's not an animal. So that is a really, 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 really strong quote that stuck with me when I first knew that I could really communicate deeply with animals. And then also too, it helps me get through a lot of things, like we talked about the topic today with the cards. It really helps me to also balance when I'm feeling, certain things about certain people, to understand that, we're not separate from animals. Animals do have empathy. There's so many studies right now, and if you look at the research that Oxford University is doing, and there's a whole bunch of universities, but Oxford University is doing some really cool animal science discovery stuff. It's so amazing. But they're discovering how much empathy and how much consciousness that animals do have, and how much they actually are perceiving, how much they perceive our emotional state and our thoughts and our emotions before we even speak a word or cry a tear or do anything. Animals are very, 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 they are master intuitive communicators, and they have picked up on every single one of our senses that we're releasing. We release certain pheromones when we are afraid. We release certain pheromones when we're sad, and animals have picked up on those through their keen senses, and they know exactly where we are emotionally. They do know that. Animals live in the moment, and and that's all. That's how they live. And we are the ones who want them to live and to be and to do certain things. So it's important to pay attention. The purpose for really understanding animal communication is understanding that they do live in the moment, that they are constantly communicating with us through telepathy. And what is telepathy? Telepathy is sending thoughts from one person to another, or another being to another. So animals do this. They telepathically send messages, and they telepathically receive ours. And that is why they know they're getting a bath, is why they know they're going to the vet today or tomorrow, or you're going on vacation. It's why they know that you're moving, or that they're going to be rehomed, or that they're getting ready to go somewhere or anywhere, or something's getting ready to change. They already know this, and that's why they act funny, or they escape, or they hide, or they just do stuff where, like, what the heck, like, why is he doing that? Well, because he knows, or she knows, or whatever. They know what's coming based on your thought process. So one of the things about the purpose of us learning how to communicate with our animals is to be able to ease their anxiety about things like that. That's one purpose, to be able to ease their, because they really truly do have anxiety about all of that stuff. They are so very much about structure. They are very much pack animals about, and the majority people say, well, coyotes aren't pack animals. Well, they actually are, and most animals are. So they know when there's going to be a separation. The mom knows when you're getting ready to take her puppies away, or all of that kind of stuff. So they know what's happening before it even happens. So one of the purposes for us communicating is to be able to put them at ease a little bit about what's going on, talk to them before we are making these changes. And they do like to be informed. So I'm just going to put that right out there right now. Animals want and like to be informed. So people say, they don't even think about talking to their animals when they're getting ready to move. But it's really, really important to do that. You're going to see a lot of behavioral issues with animals, going into a new home, or, just moving to them being rehomed, or anything like that. A lot of behavioral issues are a result of basically just them not knowing. They get pissed about that. So that's really important for you guys to know. If you're planning on making a change, and I'll share something after this, but it's really, really important to talk to your animals about the fact that you're getting ready to change something, because they're very, very peculiar about stuff like that. Very picky, very peculiar. So for us, animals are they are our teachers. They're our guides. They guide us. They will actually teach us a lot about ourselves if we pay attention to them. So there's a lot of different reasons for us to want to communicate with our animals. And mainly it's to have a better relationship, just like you're going to communicate with your partner, or anybody in your life that you have a relationship with. You have a relationship with your animals, and you have a responsibility to cultivate that relationship through communication and, you know, understanding the ways that they communicate is going to make it a little bit more helpful. So how do we communicate with animals? Um, I said that I would share 8 steps, and I'm going to share the 8 steps, and you guys can take the steps and do whatever you want with them and make it your own, because it's really important to understand that if you take them as guidelines and then really use your own, the biggest thing with animal communication is intuitiveness. So if you are unsure about your intuitiveness and the information that you are getting in, excuse me, the first thing that I would suggest is to practice honing in on your intuitiveness, your gut, your visions, things that you hear, things that you smell, anything like that. Just practice on different things. So the first thing that's important to understand is that animals are super, super sensitive. Again, like I said, they are constantly reading us, constantly. They're constantly reading our emotions. They're constantly reading our thoughts because they do communicate through telepathy. So it is very important to be very clear, to not be under the influence, especially of alcohol. And I know that a lot of shamans use certain plant medicines to go into an altered state to communicate with animals. I do not do that. And that's just a personal thing for me and for what I've learned through communicating with animals. Sometimes it scares them. And so I personally like to be very, very clear and grounded and not influenced in any way when I'm communicating with them. So that's the first thing that I'm going to suggest, is that you're not under the influence of anything when you're going to communicate with your animals. Then you need to pick a time when the animal is relaxed. It doesn't have to be just for me. If I'm doing an animal reading, I find that it works a lot better and that the communication is a lot more clear because the animal is not so anxious. They know when I'm reading them because we're exchanging conversation, through thoughts, we're exchanging information through thought. So it's important to be relaxed and clear and not under the influence. So the first thing that I would do, I guess if you guys want to, you can kind of, you can do this as an exercise right now if you want to do this. But the first thing that you need to do is really ground yourself. And what I would do is I would just take a few minutes, and normally I take about 15 or 20 minutes before each reading. And I like to go outside. I don't care if it's raining. I don't care if it's snowing. I don't care what the weather is like outside. I take my shoes off and I go outside and I feel the earth under my feet. I'll sit. If the ground is wet or if there's snow, I'll use a lawn chair or something and I'll just sit and I'll have my bare feet touching the ground. And if not, then I might just do a walking meditation where I walk around my yard barefoot and I just take some deep breaths in and I just really, really just ground myself into a space of just being fully present right here, right now, and knowing that I'm going into this communication with this animal and I want to be very clear and very grounded. I don't want to have anything else on my mind except for whatever it is that I'm there to communicate about with or to communicate for, and just to be fully present with that animal. And so the first thing I do is I do a grounding exercise, a grounding meditation. And then what I do is I will get in my mind a very clear impression of that animal. Usually what I do is I ask the person to send me a front-facing photo, so they can do that through email, or they'll text me. And I ask for it to be recent. Now, if the animal is deceased, or if they've transitioned, that's a whole nother topic. But if the person contacts me, I ask them to send me a photo, and I like a front-facing photo so that I can connect eyes to eyes. I like to look at the animal directly. And if you don't have the animal in front of you, it's totally fine. Like I said, you just use a picture. So the second thing would be to get the clear impression of the animal, to see what they look like in front of you, to have that clear impression. The third thing is the most important thing, and that is to ask for permission. You always, always, always ask the animal for permission to basically come into their space. I would never do any type of reading, or I would never, ever try to connect with an animal without asking for their permission. So that is really, really important. If you don't remember anything else out of this whole thing, it is extremely important to ask the animal for permission. A lot of people forget that. Then the fourth thing would be to visualize, once they've given the permission and you have the clear impression of them, then you want to visualize yourself in front of the animal, and you want to visualize a heart-to-heart connection. So I just visualize like the infinity or crazy eight, and I just visualize this energy that just goes and flows back and forth between me and that animal, and that we're connecting on a heart level. And once you actually feel that connection, when you actually feel yourself connected into that animal and you've established your connection, that's the fifth thing, is when you, after you've done this heart-to-heart exercise, you have basically established your connection with them. You can feel that. And don't release until you don't want to release until the end, but don't stop the heart-to-heart connection until you actually truly feel that, until you actually truly feel that you have this really strong heart connection with this animal. So that may take a few minutes.
What happens if you're already in your animal's presence? What happens, like, for example, if my dog is right in front of me and I want to try to understand, what he's trying to tell me? Because sometimes my dog will just start barking for absolutely, I can't figure out why. And I'm asking him, what's going on? What's going on? And, he's just making the strangest sounds as if he's trying to say something to me.
Yes.
And I don't know what he's trying to say. So would I go through this procedure also if he was sitting right in front of me?
Yes. So what you would do is, you wouldn't take as long to do it, but absolutely. So what you would do is you would just step back for a second, and you would take a deep breath, and you would just stand there, and you would make a connection with them without words. The biggest issue that we have is our vocabularies, our speaking. So when I shared about how animals communicate, it is vital to understand how they communicate before you can start to communicate with them. Because understanding that they are all about telepathy, they're about their vibrations and body language, They understand energy and pictures. They understand, the only reason why they understand words, they understand the tone and the frequency or the vibration of the letters and the tone of our voice. So we think that they understand no. They don't understand the word no. They understand the vibration and the tone behind that, the sounds and the vibration coming out of that. Every letter in the vocabulary has a specific tone, has a specific sound. And that's a whole nother thing.
So they can never understand when we're talking to them. They can never really understand words.
That's exactly right. Yes. Yes. They understand. So we can communicate with our animals with not one word said, nothing, through our body language and through telepathy. So what I would suggest is when your dog is barking like that, just step back. Do not say a word. Just step back, take a deep breath. Imagine you're connecting that heart center space with them. And again, you're not going to take, 30 minutes to do this because you're standing in front of them and you want them to stop barking. And thought-wise, you're going to ask him the question, what are you barking at? Show me. What is it? But you're going to think that while you're connected to them. You're not going to use words. And then you're going to very closely pay attention without putting your own thoughts into it. You're going to pay attention to his body language, because there's going to be a shift in his body. He's either going to be like over here or over this way. My dog does this thing when I'm eating, and this is what she does. She doesn't say anything. She just sits there, and there's my plate, and here's me, and here's my food, and she goes, because she wants to tell me she wants my food. So she's doing that with her eyes, and then she'll look back at me. She'll look at my food, she looks at me. She looks at my food, she looks at me. She's telling me, I want your food. So if you pay attention in that moment, yes, you still have to connect in with them and pay attention to their body language and their movements and, the position of the tail. That's really important with dogs. When their tail is up, that can show some confrontation. That's showing alpha. It's showing dominance. If their tail is level, it's like, yeah, we're cool here. This is good. I'm all right. And then if their tail is tucked under, it's, you know what, I'm not really sure about this. So there's so many different ways that animals, like I said, they communicate, and we just have to be open to understanding what those ways are, paying attention to them, listening, using our senses, using our intuition, listening, smelling. Animals have specific smells. A dog who has kidney failure, their breath is going to smell like ammonia. Their breath is going to smell like pee. So we have to really be grounded, and we have to really be in tune with our senses to pay attention to all of this. The different tones of the calls and the barks, the different tones to the meows, or whatever animal it is that you're trying to communicate with. Just understanding the shift in those tones, or again, their body language. Dogs are going to show their teeth. They're going to show teeth before they don't want to be aggressive. They don't at all. So they're going to shift their body to where they're going to put their chest out, and they're going to have a firmer stance. That's going to indicate to the other animal, hey, you know, you're about to get something here. If that doesn't work, they're going to show teeth. They're just going to show them. They're not going to, nothing else. They're just going to show teeth. After they've showed teeth, if that other animal or that person that's trying to take a bone from them doesn't back away, they're going to get a little more forceful. They're going to growl and show teeth. They're going to be vocal about it. And then if that doesn't work, then we all know what comes next. But there's warning signs that they're giving off. And so paying attention to all of the ways that they're communicating, and just really tapping into that. So it's really good to use your own animal or use your friend's animal, or, you know, your neighbor, whatever. Yeah, just to practice. But once you've established the connection with them, it's vital to be very clear and very important about what it is that you want to know, or what it is that you, what behavior you want shifted, or anything like that. It's really, really important. Yeah.
So this is Bowser.
Yes.
He's a 100-pound giant schnauzer, and he's very, very loving and very, very happy. But sometimes he barks a lot, and we don't know why. But he's just very, very loving and very, very big. Right, Bowser?
I see that.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, the other thing is, after you've established your dialogue, is to be patient. You have to be patient. You have to have patience, and not try to put, you know, the purpose for being grounded and the purpose for connecting in with them is to not put your own dialogue of what it is that you think is happening, or what it is that you think that they're doing. It's to really, really establish that connection so that you can understand what it is that they're telling you. And then, you know, take notes on things like of what's coming up for yourself. You know, sometimes, well, I'm visual, so I get visions of things. I also will smell things or taste things sometimes. So when they're communicating messages, pay attention to your own senses. What's happening? Like, are you hearing things? Are you smelling things? Are you seeing things? You know, where are you feeling things in your body? And then also too, don't forget to close out at the end. Make sure that you thank the animal. They love praise. They love praise, and they love to be thanked. And, you know, especially dogs. Dogs are very, very, very loyal people pleasers. And the reason why it's so easy to train dogs, any dog, to fight is because they just want to please their owner. So they are going to please the owner good, or they're going to please the owner bad, if you want to put labels on things. They're going to please the owner. So it's not in them. It is not in any dog. I don't care what anyone says. It is not in any dog to be aggressive and mean. It is not. It is not in their nature. They are here to teach us unconditional love. And the only way that they become aggressive, or, you know, when they're taught to fight that way, is because of that unconditional love. They love their owner unconditionally, that they will go against their own nature to please their owner. So that's important for people to understand also. And that's why, you know, dogs can be rehabilitated, because they innately in them have all of that love to give, and they know that. So they just want to please us, and that's important to know too.
Thank you so
Um,
much. Wow, very interesting.
so the piece of advice that I can offer for everyone is to hone in on your intuition, connect with your own animals, and practice, 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 because anybody can communicate with animals. You really, really, really just have to practice.
Heidi, can you put your contact information into the chat?
Sure.
Into the chat over here in the Zoom call, so that way, if anybody wants to connect with you privately and maybe, hire you for your services to help them with their animal, I think it would be great for everybody to have a way to contact you. And then, of course, I'll be posting about your presentation today on my Facebook page, and your presentation is also going to be on our YouTube page. So I'm going to stop the recording now, and then we can move into any questions if anybody has any questions for Heidi. Thank you, Heidi.
Thank you.